Okay, we have a continuation of a public hearing for 25-3W of Strategic Commercial Realty, requesting approval for earth excavation and removal within an upland review area and upgraded existing stream crossing resulting in 4,800 square feet of wetlands disturbance on property located at 64 Black Hill Road. Assessors map 7, block 78, lot 19. Sir.
Before you get started, I just want to make a quick announcement. If anybody is here for the proposed waste energy operation, that is not on tonight's agenda. It will not be coming before any local board or commission. There will be a public informational meeting held here, May 7th, 7 o'clock p.m. May 7th, 7 o'clock p.m. in the auditorium. It is not affiliated with the town. They are renting the auditorium for the night. I do not know what the format is going to be. I do not know how they will conduct it, but you can show up if you like.
All set, right?
Yep.
Good evening. For the record, my name is John Felicia, Boundaries LLC. We're the firm that prepared the plans for the proposed excavation. Also with me this evening is Madeline Smith, counsel for Strategic Properties, and we are here to continue the discussion started last month on this excavation permit application. It consists of 11.3 acres of excavation area, and as the chairman mentioned, 4,800 square feet of wetland impacts related to the construction of the driveway. One of the things I just want to point out is we discussed the magnitude of the operation in terms of its size, and that it was only 11.3 acres of a 134-acre parcel. One of the points I want to just kind of emphasize is, based on the parcel from the site walk that you saw, from the plans that you've seen it, the only access to 100 acres of this property is over that existing wetland crossing, which we are proposing to improve. In addition to that, that sole access point is also dictated by the Connecticut Department of Transportation in the location of the curb cut and driveway as we have proposed. So regardless of the form of development or use of the property, that is the sole access location and the sole point to get to that 100 acres that exists on this property. The sheet that I have up on the board in front of me is sheet number 5 of the plan set. It identifies the key map for the excavation areas. Excavation area A out towards the road, excavation area B in the back, and just to remind you, excavation area A is approximately 5 acres, removing 25,000 cubic yards of earth product. Excavation area B is 6.3 acres, and we're anticipating moving 90,500 cubic yards of earth product from that location. Both sites are accessed by the same driveway, and the impacts that we are proposing are to install a new 15-inch culvert pipe underneath that driveway, adjacent to an existing 12-inch pipe, which will be extended to allow for the access over it. Those two, the combination of those two pipes, as reviewed by your town engineer, will accommodate the design for the 100-year storm event without overtopping, and that is the criteria that we were trying to achieve. Excavation area A was the topic of the tail end of the discussion at the last meeting as it related to the pond. I'm flipping to sheet 6 of the plan set, which shows excavation area A, the limits of the 5 acres that we are proposing to excavate, the limits of the pond within that 5 acres, the groundwater contours as they exist based on the groundwater monitoring that we had done. Remember, we had installed 6 groundwater monitoring wells and we conducted 31 test pits during the preparation of this plan set to identify what we were going to have for water table and what we would encounter for soils. We're anticipating, based on design, a maximum depth of water of 7 feet in that pond. And we discussed the pond in terms of what happens to the pond once it's dug. The rear part of the pond, or the northwesterly portion of the pond, is outside the upland review area associated with the wetlands that runs parallel to Black Hill Road. That upland review area runs essentially parallel to the road and parallel to the wetlands and just into the pond at the edge of the excavation. But what happens when we construct the pond has been constructed several times by the applicant, is that we excavate the earth product out. We get down to a point that we're encountering the water table based on the monitoring that we've done and based on the test holes that we've done, so we can know what the anticipated water level will be in the pond. And the pond fills up as we're excavating, obviously. The restoration of the slopes of the pond, or the side slopes, are done through use of the material that was stripped from the area before it was excavated. So that topsoil, which includes all the seed stock that's found in that forested area, is then placed back on top of 12 inches of subsoil, so that those slopes are non-gravel slopes when they're done. You have a slope that's been treated with 12 inches of subsoil, an additional 6 inches of topsoil, which gives us an 18-inch soil profile, which contains the native seed stock to the property prior to excavation. I have with me, these are photos, I have two sets, I'll start them on both ends. These are photos of about a 12-acre pond excavation that's being conducted, or is almost complete, in the town of Thompson and Putnam by the applicant. And you can see from the photos how the pond and nature kind of takes over. Vegetation is coming back. There's a photo in there with the clarity of the water and the vegetation emerging in the bottom, as well as a shot with the waterfowl that's already making use of that pond, even while it's being excavated. You'll see in one of those photos an area that's still being excavated and areas and portions of that pond that are essentially complete. So that's what happens over a short period of time when the pond is excavated in these type of conditions. I also have a letter that I'm going to provide, and I'll read it into the record. Stand the mic close again. This is prepared by Ed Avazinius, Environmental Services, Inc., and it is to Rawson Materials, to Madeline, who's here this evening, dated April 15, 2025. And it's an opinion of orthoprogenic pond succession. I'll read this briefly. This letter is to provide my professional opinion on man-made pond succession based on my experience and scientific sources. In general, ponds do not require intervention via specific plantings. These aquatic species will naturally colonize the pond. Essentially, even a large enough hole dug can naturally evolve into a functioning pond wetland with minimal intervention through ecological succession and hydrologic processes. Initially, rainwater and groundwater begin to fill the depression, creating an aquatic habitat. Over time, seeds from the nearby wetland plants are dispersed into the area by wind, water, and wildlife, leading to colonization by emerging vegetation, such as cattails and sedges. These plants stabilize the substrate, increase organic matter, and grow microbial communities essential for nutrient cycling. Aquatic invertebrates, amphibians, and birds are gradually attracted, enhancing biodiversity and ecological complexity. With minimal human disturbance, natural processes foster the development of hydric soils and self-sustaining wetland ecosystem. While in some initial design considerations, slope, depth, and water connectivity aid success, nature can often complete the transformation unaided. He cites his scientific sources, and it is signed by Ed Avazinius. So in short, in addition to the information that we discussed at the last meeting in terms of erosion and sedimentation controls, embedded sediment fence in woodchip berms in the areas directly adjacent to the driveway, and the wetland activities, and the other items we discussed in terms of how the operation would be conducted, timeframes associated with that, and this supplemented by this additional information on the pond. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions. I'll turn it back to the chair.
Minimal. human disturbance.
Sorry?
Minimal human disturbance. What does that mean?
Where are you reading from, sir? I'm sorry.
Right after Zedler and Kirschner, 2005.
But with minimal human disturbance, meaning that we're not going in there and constantly, uprooting or re-agitating the pond itself. I mean, once it's dug, it's dug, and we would not be going back into the pond for any purposes. And then, as we discussed in the past, once the excavation is complete, it's the Connecticut DEP policy that this wetland or this pond will become a jurisdictional wetland approximately 12 months from the completion of the excavation activities. So during the excavation activities, it's obviously we're constructing a pond. Once those operations cease, it's a 12-month recognized period before it becomes a jurisdictional wetland, and then this commission would have authority over it.
So if you're using this as a mitigation area, why wouldn't it be a wetland as soon as you were done with it?
Because it's an ongoing construction. Until the construction ceases, it's still a construction project. As you can see in those photos that I submitted of the other pond that we're doing, the opposite side of the opposite side from the pond of the excavation is already taking shape and looking as like a natural pond. The side that's being excavated is obviously still being excavated. And until that process is complete, the applicant or developer who is actually constructing the pond would still maintain control of it. Once it's completed, then the application has lived its purpose, and then it becomes jurisdiction.
I understand that, but the problem I'm having is you're not just digging a pond. Instead of having mitigation for the wetlands that you're filling, this is your wetland mitigation area. So why would we have to wait a year after you were through excavating, plant your edges with topsoil that had come off the site? Why would we have to wait a year if that's your mitigation area? You're telling us that's a wetland right from day one as soon as you're done.
It becomes a wetland when we're done with construction. So if you want it, I mean, if we're kind of getting to a very finite time frame here, is it a wetland today and not tomorrow, or it was yesterday and it isn't today? When the construction is complete, it becomes a jurisdictional wetland. Your permits are valid for a period of time, which allows the applicant time to construct that. When that permit expires, you're going to be into a new permit process if someone wanted to do something additional. If I apply for a permit to conduct activity in a wetland, and I conduct that activity, my permit is valid for a period of time. If I have to go in and make some repairs or adjustments or whatever, I can do that within the permit that I have. When that permit is completed or expired, or I notify you that work is completed, your enforcement officer makes a final inspection, it becomes a jurisdictional wetland, and any new activity would have to come back before this board for permit.
I understand that. You had said that once you complete it, the DEP says that you have a year before it becomes a jurisdictional wetland.
That is the policy based on numerous applications that we are involved with. This is not a new concept that a pond is dug or in some cases a wet basin is constructed to manage stormwater from a development. Over a period of time, that becomes a wetland. In order for the DEP to say, okay, we need to set some kind of standard for this, a year is the policy that they've taken on. You won't find that in writing, you won't find it in a regulatory requirement. That's just their interpretation, that's the direction they provide, and that's all we have to work with.
If you think about it, if you were to dig a test pit hole to find out where the water table is, if there was no time frame to establish, as soon as you dig into the water table, you've created a wetland, which isn't the case.
I think Madeline
Well,
has something
if
she'd
you
like to
dug
add.
that hole to create a wetland as mitigation, we've approved that in the past, different mitigation measures.
So I just want to clarify for a second. So typically, when you're talking about mitigation and creating a wetland, it's the result of a violation or some large significant project and you're trying to recreate a wetland system. We're not taking organic soils from one place and putting them in another. We're not creating for lack of a better term, we're not creating a swamp. We're creating a pond. There are gravel bottom ponds and stone bottom
Here's the
ponds.
problem I have with the whole timeline, is that if we have to wait a year after you're done, and you decide that, well, we're gonna go fill that back in because the year isn't up yet, then we don't have mitigation measures that have been implemented
That
for
scenario
the
would
filling
be,
that you're doing in the street or the,
right,
in the
we've
road.
not proposed any of that, so
This
that's,
isn't mitigation though, is it? This
That-
is not mitigation. This is creating a new pond.
we're creating a pond to extract gravel and earth product.
They're
What-
not mitigating. They're not
Back up.
mitigating.
What are you doing for mitigation for the area, the wetland area that you're filling?
That's correct. You asked me that question at the last meeting, and my response was that we're creating a 5-acre pond.
Okay, so
It wasn't necessarily, we've created that we're creating some we're not creating a like replication of the wetlands that we're filling. And keep in mind, the wetlands that we're filling.
Well, you don't have to
primarily-
create a like wetland, you just,
Keep-
there are a
keep
lot
in
of
mind-
different mitigation measures that you can use.
Right.
But as soon as you label this mitigation for the filling that you're doing,
There's nothing in this plan set or in the application that calls that pond mitigation. That was a question that was asked at the last meeting. You said, what are you doing for mitigation? My response probably should have been nothing, but instead, I told you that we're
well,
creating a
let me
pond.
ask another question.
Sure.
If you're doing nothing for mitigation, what is your proposal for mitigation for filling the almost 5,000 square feet of wetlands?
So keep in mind that the area that we're filling is already an existing roadway. It runs through the wetland. The sole access to the property. The sole access to the property.
Is it a wetland?
It's within the wetland, there are hydric soils beneath that roadbed, yes.
And you're expanding the width of that road,
That's correct.
so you're filling wetlands.
That's correct.
What are you doing for mitigation for filling the wetlands?
We're going around in circles here. I'm giving you a 5-acre pond that will be jurisdictional.
So
when
that's
it's
your
over.
mitigation measure.
I'm offering that as a mitigation measure.
It's an offset.
We're kind of splitting hairs here. I mean, I could move that
I
pond
don't
50
think we're
feet.
splitting hairs.
I could move that pond 50 feet and you have no jurisdiction on it at all.
Unless you use it as a mitigation measure.
Not necessarily.
Well,
I can move
you're
it
not
50
going to
feet,
use
it's
it as a
outside the
mitigation
upland.
measure. What are you proposing for mitigation?
I guess the answer at this point is going to be, the answer at this point is going to be nothing, because I think we're splitting hairs on filling a wetland to accommodate access to 100 acres of property, which has historically been the access to that property for the last 50+
Historically,
years.
when someone fills a wetland, we require mitigation.
I have done many applications in front of this commission, and I don't believe that to be true of all of those applications. I don't think, unless that's a new standard, I've been coming here for 20+ years, and that's news to me. I'm not trying to argue it, it's just, we're providing something that's going to provide additional habitat, it's going to provide additional measures for groundwater recharge, and
That's all a
flood
good thing.
flood attenuation, all those
I'm
things.
not disagreeing with that, I'm just concerned with that 1-year lag period where anything could happen.
So, let me go back to that for 1 second, Ryan. So that 1-year lag period you're talking about, the permit is valid for a period of time. We have that period of time to conduct the work. If something changes substantially during the operation, during, the proposal, what we decide we want to do, if we wanted to make something smaller, wanted to make something larger, it requires that we come back before this commission. So the site plan that you're acting on is all we're allowed to do under the permit. We're not allowed to dig it and fill it back in. That's not what we're asking for, and that's not what the permit's going to state. So any change to that, or those concerns that you have that what might occur during that year, if it's not on the plan and we do something to fill it back in, for example, that's a violation of our permit. If we decided to make this pond 10 acres instead of 5, we can't do that without coming back here. If we wanted to fill it in, we can't do that without coming back here.
Okay. Would anybody like to speak?
Yes.
Name?
Julie Mahalski, and we own 8 through 10 Karen Drive. A 5-acre hole dug to hold water will likely become a pond. Over time, if it were to become overgrown with vegetation, it could potentially evolve into a swamp. So now we have a 5-acre swamp potentially, because as the vegetation or whatever, natural seeds that's going in that pond grow, it gets sludge. It gets thicker, thicker, thicker over the years, and prime example would be Owen Bell Park Pond. They recently dredged it. Why? Because it was becoming a swamp. So his pond is going to be now my swamp because I continue to have residents there.
Would you like to address that?
We're kind of dancing around the same topic here. The commission wants mitigation and they want a wetland or swamp replaced for those areas. You don't want a pond because it's going to turn into a swamp. So I'm not quite sure where we're going here, but this is a gravel bottom pond. You're welcome to take a look at those photos of the pond that was constructed recently, but I'm not quite sure where you're going with that.
I'm going where we don't want it.
And that's fine, but it's you had referred to it as your swamp. It's never going to be your swamp.
That's not
It's
my
going to be
swamp,
wetland
it's the
on an
neighbor's
adjacent
swamp
property.
that's bringing in equine encephalitis to Plainfield, which is the first town that seems to always bring in those rancid mosquitoes. But they're not living on your property, they're near.
Water, and there is no cattails growing naturally at all. It is the swamp when it gets slow.
Your pond is heavily influenced by stormwater runoff from Route 14. It's adjacent to a state highway with discharges to your pond. That's why your pond looks the way it does.
Just for clarity for the commission, you only have oversight over the creation of this pond because it falls within your upland review area. You do not have oversight over the actual creation of the pond. You have oversight because if they construct on a property, it could impact the adjacent wetlands, which by the plans, it looks like that is not a possibility. So you can't say we don't want the pond.
No, I don't think that's what I'm saying.
I'm just letting the commission know.
I agree the creation of it. But and then the successional change that your biologist outlined, two biologists, Madeline Smith.
Madeline is the recipient.
I'm the
Edward-
yeah.
Edwards, the biologist.
Yeah, he's a wetlands professional, wetland soil professional.
Okay. I agree that the changes to this bit of water will occur naturally. Certainly speed them up. When we do require mitigation areas, we usually require planting, but now you're saying that's not a mitigation area. So we're kind of, it's not a mitigation area, but it's really going to be a mitigation area. Is that a fair assessment?
It will give you the benefit of additional regulated resource once it takes shape.
As far as the pond in Bayville that you had mentioned, every pond goes through successional change. It takes a while. The Bayville pond went through successional change. It builds up with dead leaves, and eventually they either turn into a swamp and then possibly a peat bog. That's a natural process, I think. Any pond is going to undergo what is it? Pond up in Killing is basically dry, nothing but cattails, which is a decent pond for fishing in. It will fill with water. It will be a pond, and it will undergo successional change over time.
Steve Mahalski, 810 Karen Drive. So in the previous meeting, you mentioned it's 146 ground elevation on one end and 140 on the other. So obviously water is seeping into some grounds quicker than the other. After it becomes one pond, what will this elevation be? And how do we know it's not going to be a 1-foot swamp? Because it's estimated at 7 feet.
I did address that last time. We're excavating the pond into the water table in 2 locations, so the water will seek its level at the excavation where we expose the groundwater. So we're not talking about water seeping in, we're talking about water emerging from the groundwater supply that's there.
So it's going to be between that elevation 140 to 146?
No, the anticipated water surface elevation is 146.9, which gives you about a 7-foot deep pond.
Would it be safe to say that where the groundwater is 140, that the pond will lose water on that end and gain water on the other end?
It won't lose water because we're at the water table at that point. So it's not, you can't force it down, not pushing it into the soil. We're allowing it to emerge. So where the ground elevation is at 140, that will be the deeper part of the pond. And the shallower part of the pond will be at the opposite end where we hit groundwater at a higher level.
Any other questions, comments?
Is it okay if I speak up at the podium?
Yeah, just give us your name.
Okay. My name is Heather Brisson. I reside at 19 Palmer Court. I'm just here to express my strong opposition to the proposed gravel pit development, the irregulated wetlands and water courses. After reviewing the Plainfield inland wetlands water course regulations, it is clear that this actively conflicts with multiple sections of the regulations and would result in long-term environmental damage. Under Section 6, excavation material removal and graded are regulated activities. A gravel pit involves intense soil disturbance and hydrologic changes threatening wetland ecosystems by increasing erosion, sedimentation, and pollutant runoff. Further, Section 10.2 requires the Commission to consider whether an activity would interfere with the wetland's ability to control flooding, support wildlife, and maintain the water quality. Gravel mining near wetlands disrupts groundwater recharge and natural drainage patterns, often resulting in irreversible harm to the habitat and hydrology. The applicant has claimed that after mining is complete, the land will be restored as farmland. This sounds beneficial on the surface, but it is even more concerning for several reasons. Converting land to agricultural near wetlands introduces new risks, including nutrient runoff, pesticides, and additional soil erosion, all of which are well-known threats to water quality and aquatic life. Horticultural use does not restore native wetland functions. A farm field does not provide habitat, natural water filtration, or the flood mitigation services of a wetland. Under Section 10.2F, the Commission must weigh the irreversibility of harm. Once soil is stripped and natural topography and vegetation are removed, the original wetland buffer functions are gone. Farmland does not replace them. Finally, under Section 10.3, the regulations require that no feasible or prudent alternate exists. Gravel pits are not location dependent and can be sited away from critical resources. This site's proximity to regulated wetlands makes it a poor and avoidable choice. For all these reasons, I urge the Commission to deny this application in full. The long-term environmental costs and compounded by inadequate and potentially harmful restoration plan makes this proposal incompatible with the intent and requirements of the wetlands regulations.
A lot to unpack there. Mike's to adjust.
The gravel excavation is regulated in this particular case because it's within, a portion of it is within the upland review area. So the Commission's role, or the Commission's evaluation of this, is to determine whether or not the activity that we're proposing is likely to cause harm to those wetlands. We've demonstrated that the excavation areas that we're proposing are a minimum of 50 feet from the wetland boundary. Your upland review area is 100. They are also self-contained so that there's no stormwater runoff from any of those excavated areas to the wetland areas. And the access drive is existing, and we are proposing to improve it because it is currently substandard. It doesn't meet the requirements for the 100-year storm in terms of passing through that culvert. It is the sole access to the property. So the activities that we're proposing, particularly related to direct impacts, are to provide access, again, to a 100-acre parcel that cannot be accessed otherwise. In terms of the farming operations, I don't have the regulations in front of me, but the farming operations are allowed by right, and I believe that there are certain exemptions that are in place for that activity. The property, once opened up, is not going to reduce stormwater or groundwater recharge. It's actually an enhanced groundwater recharge because we're going to create areas of permeable soils that the surface waters can get into. I understand the concerns and the desire not to see change, but in this particular case, the activities that we're proposing are not going to create a negative impact on the river or the adjacent wetlands on the property.
Could you clarify, are you going to be restoring any of the impacted wetlands after the project is complete?
The wetland areas that we're proposing to fill will remain, that driveway will remain as the sole access to the property. So any future uses of the property will benefit from the use of that driveway. And again, it's in the only location that's feasible, and it's in the only location that the Connecticut DOT will allow the curb cut to satisfy the required sight lines.
So the crossing will be staying at the
Yes.
proposed 20 feet?
Yes. And again, it's to enhance the existing crossing that exists that is currently substandard. When we were out there on the sidewalk, the pipe that is there has very little cover on it. It's got some embedment, and it clearly won't pass the 100-year storm event, which the regulations require that we address. Town engineers reviewed our hydraulic calculations and the proposed crossing and has concurred with our design.
Just for additional clarity, was this ever proposed to be a farm field at the completion of this project?
We identified that it would be restored and that it could be used for agricultural purposes, and we did that specifically by including 12 inches of subsoil and 6 inches of topsoil, so that we weren't dropping 3 inches of topsoil over gravel like is done in many cases.
So you're just basically restoring it, you're not necessarily making it a farm field?
It will be restored, loamed and seeded so that it could be mowed, it could be cut, yes. We're not proposing any particular agricultural crop, we're just restoring the area.
Will you be using any pesticides?
No.
Anybody else have anything like to say?
I contacted DEP last week about to see if there was ever a site survey for natural resources, trees, environment, stuff like that. And a site survey through DEP was never conducted. So I worry about what exactly is going to be affected when they start building, and when they start tearing things down.
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by site survey.
So a site survey, so they go through, DEP goes through and identifies if there's any natural resources, trees or endangered species that might live there.
This application is not required to submit a stormwater permit to DEP because of its size and the nature of the design, that it's completely self-contained. Those registrations and permits are required when you have a discharge from the construction.
I think she was referring to the national.
Yeah, we're not required, that's not a requirement of this application.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I wonder about the traffic flow.
State your name, please.
Gary Person. I wonder about the traffic flow that's going to be coming in and out of that area.
That will be
There's
addressed.
a lot of large trucks going down through the village, central village now. from another company, Rawson's, or I think it is anyway.
Right.
So
So
trucks coming in and out of there all day.
the public hearing for planning and zoning,
Running down through the center village with all these trucks out,
that's,
how many trips in and out every day, somebody could address that issue.
so the public hearing,
There's no sidewalks in center village, so these kids are walking alongside the road, and there's these big trucks coming down the road. I mean, there's no sidewalks there for people. If they're walking or on bicycles.
sir, the public hearing for planning and zoning is going to be held or continued to May 13th, 7 o'clock PM in this room. And that question can be better addressed at that meeting. This is regarding wetlands, not the truck traffic.
Anybody else like to speak? Any questions from the commission? Comments? Not. Entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion, we close public hearing.
Motion made. Need a second. Motion made and seconded, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Start our regular meeting with roll call from my left. Ralph Wells. Mike DeJardin.
Sean Peterson.
Tom Sinkowitz. Joe Campbell.
Brandon Stilwell.
Ryan Gray.
What is this, determination, next item, determination of the foreign and appoint alternate members? Any additions or corrections to the agenda?
We do not have one.
Review and act on the minutes of 3/18/25.
So they were sent to you in the packet. I do not have them.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes that were mailed to us.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Unfinished old business, 25-3W of Strategic Commercial Realty requesting approval for earth excavation and removal within an upland review area, upgrade an existing stream crossing resulting in 4,800 square feet of wetland disturbance on property located at 64 Black Hill Road. Assessors map 7, block 78, lot 19. Do we have any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I do have one question. So when it came to the planting schedule, that was something that was brought up, and that was requested. Were you personally satisfied that you had brought that up?
We didn't get a planting schedule, we got more or less it's going to take care of itself schedule. But there's been a change as far as I can see from our last public hearing in that they're not proposing this now as a mitigation. That was what I would require the planning schedule for. I guess the only concern I have is, and it's still sticking in my brain here, that we have to wait a year before that's declared a wetland. I don't know if the applicant would be agreeable to put it in as a condition that once the pond is dug, created, all the earthwork is done, that a condition of the permit that couldn't be filled back in without approval from the commission. I guess that sounds like what you said.
So this is.
Clarification of technical, I can make. So we can't have additional discussion, but a technical clarification I can offer. And the technical response to that is the application doesn't include filling it, and any change would require a return back to this commission.
This is a phase 1 of the project. They have to complete the pond before they move on to phase 2. And if they decide to fill it in, that would be a change to the permit. This commission would have to approve that. It doesn't matter if it's considered a wetland at that point or not. It's a modification to the plan that needs approval from this commission.
Ryan, did you have any conditions of approval for this?
I did not drop any, no. Is there anything you had in mind?
Well, I'm just looking at what, from the engineering department.
That is more for the Planning and Zoning Commission, and that will be addressed at that point in time.
I move that we accept 25-3W of Strategic Commercial Realty Incorporated.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
I'm opposed.
I'm opposed.
Can we get a roll call vote?
Roll call vote, starting on my left.
Let's just do a raise of hand.
Well, it's for the record.
All four, raise hand.
4.
Brady, are you voting or not? Opposed. You're opposed? Okay.
So we doing opposed now?
Opposed?
Okay. It's official.
I'm already opposed.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, 25-5W, Roma Construction, Inc., requesting 2 additional buildings within the upland review area on property located at 6 West Parkway, Assessors Map 17, Block 11, Lot I-30.
The applicant has not finished with the plans. They have provided us with an extension letter to get us through the May 13th, May meeting, and that is a 35-day extension. So we continue to, let me just check the date on that. May 20th.
I'll make a motion to continue 25-5W till May, what's the date?
May 20th.
May 20th.
Made second, and all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. New business, 25-7W, Alec, I don't know how to pronounce that, Barabo? Requesting permission to work within an upland review area to construct a single-family home and driveway at 0 Black Hill Road, Assessors Map 14, Block 78, Lot 13.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Walter Wilder, licensed land surveyor of PC Survey Associates. Alec Barbo is also in attendance, so you can have any questions. This project is construction of a single-family house on an existing 1-acre lot located at the end of School Street Extension, which is a dead-end road off of Black Hill Road. It's actually the original location of Black Hill Road where it was across the Moosehead River. And familiar with the area, there's the old bridge frame is still there at the end of the road. This is pretty much the only lot, on that stretch of road, which is, I'd say, less than a couple hundred feet long. It used to have a house on it years and years ago. There's an old foundation out there. And what we're proposing is building a new house on the lot, and we're going to be within your 100-foot regulated area. So we're for approval for that construction. It'll be served by municipal sewer. It will be tying into the line out at Black Hill Road. Pumping, we have to, because of the grades in there, we have to pump from the house out to the sewer line at Black Hill Road. Interestingly enough, there's a sewer line running right through the property that we can't tie into because of the capacity. It feeds it goes to the sewer plant, which is located next door to this, and it's like a main trunk line serving the town. So because of the capacity, we don't want to tie into it in case there's a backup. It's a lot of flow running through there that we don't have to deal with. We're proposing to drill a well on site for a water supply. We're keeping all of our activity to the south of the berm that is created by that sewer line that runs through the property. So there's a natural upgrade between the activity and where the river is. So it almost makes like a dam, so that any runoff won't be heading toward the river. We had the wetlands delineated by Joe Thoreau, and they're indicated on the map here. It's pretty much along the edge of the river. It's a pretty steep embankment there that drops down to the water. But it's pretty straightforward and simple. I don't know what questions you might have about it.
That's quick.
Outline where the limits of soil disturbance are on the plan.
Yeah, pretty much the bottom of the berm that runs through, there's a sewer line runs up through here, it's at the top of the berm, and we're going to be following the bottom of the berm. Limits of disturbance. Which I think at the closest point to the wetlands, there might be 50 feet to the
Natural berm between the river and this property? Or maybe
yeah,
it's
well, not natural,
it's for the
but
swimming?
yeah.
There's a good 4-foot difference in elevation all along that sewer main. So you're 4 foot high. Yeah, 4 foot high.
So we don't have to worry about runoff coming towards the river?
No, the river is completely protected. I did have an opportunity to go out there. The property is fairly flat. You can see that there is a catch basin toward the rear of the property. I'm not sure exactly what that is for. I think it's to drain.
I'm guessing when they installed the sewer line, it left a low spot, so they put a drain in there to catch any water that might collect in that area and it runs off to the river.
So
We're proposing putting hay bales during construction around that catch basin so it won't get any slippage.
as it discharges directly to the river, I kind of like silt fence along the clearing limits out back and also along the temporary stockpile area just to keep that out of the construction easement and going toward the sewer line, just so it's kind of a visual buffer.
Slopes toward the school street.
No, it slopes back.
Can you show us on the map where the silt fencing would go?
We could just follow the edge of where the clearing limits are in here with the temporary stockpile area here. We can surround that with silt fence, and then it will run down. Catch basin, you want to go all the way to the catch basin?
No, just along the edge of clearing limits.
Just pretty much around through here.
Yep, I'd be satisfied with that.
Yeah, that's
clearing limits are behind the stock pile and down this way.
Right, they're right here, this scalloped line through here.
That makes sense. Is it fairly level?
It's pretty flat.
It's very gently sloping. If you're out there, it looks pretty flat.
It's probably 4 feet from where the catch basin is to where the house is.
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
We do have some suggested conditions of approval. This is not going to be going before the Planning and Zoning Commission, so my standard conditions have been added to this application. One is the silt fence that we just spoke of. 2, the house and clearing limits must be staked and flagged by the surveyor. An as-built of all improvements and clearing limits is required. That will be in addition to the zoning permit as well. And that also includes a grinder pump and force main. Please check with the sewer department because they do have requirements. So, you can go out there and check it in the field before it's covered over.
Yeah.
And then the 10-foot construction easement must be restored to a passable condition once the work is completed.
10-foot construction.
If you look at your packet,
Yeah, when they took the sewer easement, they also took a 10-foot wide construction easement in there at the time, which it's been constructed, so I don't know what purpose it serves at this point in time.
I think if they have to
repair it or
Yeah,
whatever.
it is a force main, so if they have to repair it, they'll need a little bit of room to work.
Is that it? Limits of clearing or outside?
So it's already cleared up to that point.
Any other questions? Not, we'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we accept 25-7W of Stilwell.
Also, with the conditions as read.
Motion's been made, seconded. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Next item.
So Sean, did you second that?
I seconded it.
24 dash, John Brisson, fourth, requesting a transfer of permit 24-9W. Kylie Sangamon.
Kylie Sangermoss.
Sangamano, construction of a 3-bedroom house, well septic and driveway on property located at 0 Lovers Lane, now 6 Bazinet Lane, Assessor's Map 8, Lot 53A, Lot 118.
The original application is in your packet, right behind the staff report. This was approved May 21st, 24, and there were no conditions. John Brisson has purchased the property, and per your regulations, wetlands permits have to be transferred to the new owner. So that is a request. I also have a reduced copy of the site plan that is behind the permit. So if you want to take a quick look at it. There are no proposed changes to the plan, just a transfer.
Unrelated to anything to do with the wetlands there, why is it the road changing name? Does it change the name of the road?
So there is no access to Lover's Lane.
Oh.
And the fire marshal gave it an address of 6 Bazinet.
So that one house will just have its own little...
Well, no, it goes down Bazinet. Bazinet is a private way,
Okay,
and it had an original address of 0 Lovers, but the fire marshal wanted to give it a 901 address of 6 Bazinet.
okay.
So you need approval for a transfer or
transfer, approval for transfer.
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer of 24-9W from Kylie Sangamano to John Brisson IV.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
So nobody opposed. Just, can we have clarification on who made the motion, who seconded?
I made the motion, Sean.
I second it.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Next item, 25-6 ZWC, the show cause hearing for 144 to 146 Norwich Road, Inc. for grading activity within a regulated area without obtaining a permit.
So this is the storage, et cetera, mini storage units next to B&B Motor Works. Is everybody familiar with the location?
Yeah.
We did receive a phone call back in November of last year, early November, that there was work being done out there. So we went out to take a look. They had expanded the easterly area, and I included the site plan behind the staff report and the notice of violation. So that was a site plan that was approved, and I outlined the wetlands. I just kind of estimated where the disturbance was. But on the easterly portion, they took and pushed out material. I don't know if they deposited it, if it was stockpiled over there, but they leveled it all off, pushing it more toward the wetlands. The required stone trench, drainage trench, water quality trench, whatever you want to call it, that was covered over in that area. The site drains from the north to the south, and so eliminating that trench blocks the drainage from the north. When we went out there, they were working on the northerly section. I think what I sketched is not quite adequate or accurate. I think it is much closer to the wetlands, possibly in the wetlands. I informed the property owner at that point in time to cease activity and to apply for a restoration permit. Essentially, I told him to go back to a surveyor, find out where the limits of disturbance was, and come back in with a plan to either restore or request permission to do what he did. That has not occurred, which drew the violation. So I did go out there to the site yesterday to double check to see how things were going, and I provided pictures for you. So the first picture that we have.
Mr. Chair, are we working off of this agenda that was mailed to us, or is there a different agenda? Because I don't see this anywhere on this agenda.
I emailed you an updated agenda on Thursday, and I did give it to you in the packet.
It's in the packet?
It was separate from the packet.
It's not listed on the agenda item, is it? You don't have that?
No, the agenda. So I provided an agenda with the packet.
Found it, never mind.
So the first picture shows the easterly portion, and you can see that he expanded it and put down crushed stone so that he could use it for vehicle parking and camper parking. Also, the second picture is that area. The third picture shows the northerly area, and you can see all of the gravel that's put down. That was the expanded portion. I don't know if any of the stone portion was expanded or not. I don't think so, because I can still see the stone swale in between the gravel and the stone. So I think all of the gravel was the expanded area. Below that is the northerly section. You can see how close it is to the wetlands. And then there's just some more pictures. You can see where they're located. All the wetlands pictures are in the northerly area. Violation was mailed certified and also standard mail. The certified mailing has not been signed for yet. They did attempt, the Postal Service did attempt to make contact. They were unable to, so he was left with a notice. but as they made contact, he should have the standard mailing notice. So action tonight is to simply look at the pictures and decide if you would like to continue with the violation, and you should vote on that.
Any discussion?
He's working out of the approved area, correct?
He expanded it from what was approved.
Then the violation should stand. What's the point of having, giving them approval to work in certain areas and then having them expand all the time?
Well, I agree. It's
We
just,
don't start enforcing.
right. It's just a formal process. We have to have a show cause hearing, and then you have to vote to uphold my decision or to do away with it.
I'll make a motion to uphold your decision.
Second. Motion made and seconded, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Sorry, can we have the motion in a second?
My motion.
Second.
Mike second.
Thank you.
I would like to say something before the
It is,
meeting's closed.
I'm sorry, it's not a public hearing.
It's not a public hearing issue, it's a question.
We have citizen participation coming up, so,
Okay, so I can wait?
yep.
Okay.
Got an agent approval, 25-8W, Kevin Flood, requesting approval to work within the 100-year flood zone, construct 2 clarifying tanks and associated equipment with the North Sewage Treatment Plant.
Yes, and we discussed this last month, and you said you had no issues with me granting an agent approval. It was simply working within the upland review area, working within the 100-year flood zone, well outside of your normal upland review area. It's pretty flat over there. We do have to install a silt fence, and there should be no impact to the river whatsoever. So that agent approval was issued.
Next item, citizen participation.
Me?
That's you.
Okay. My name is Beverly Sweet. I live at 151 Black Hill Road. Since 2014, I have had an issue that has not been fixed. Let me say fixed, because I was complaining about the fact that I live on Sugar Brook. So I share into half of the brook, and as far as I know, the Haber Inn shares the other half of the brook. Since 2014, there has been much changes to that property, and I'm not getting any younger, and I don't want to leave my children with this problem. It has been out to my house, 8, 10 times maybe.
Probably.
So I would like to know at this point what he has shared with you, about that, what's going on there, because he certainly has been there, and you can't miss what's going on. But there has been property removed, and there has been property from Haber Inn moved in the brook, so therefore they gain property, I lose property. There has been lots of changes. This is not just once or twice, it's continuous. And I'm sure that Brian has probably shared what's going on out there with you. And that's really why I'm here, because I would like to know. Nothing's been done. As far as I know, they don't have any permits. But I've certainly complained enough about it. And like I said, Brian has been out there. So I'd like to know how much he's shared with you about what's going on, because I'm going to continue with this issue. Again, I'm 80 years old. I know I don't look it, but I'm getting old. I've had many health issues, serious ones. And I don't want to leave my children with this problem, because it's not like they live in Plainfield. One lives in New York, one lives in Massachusetts, And my son has his own business. I try not to bother him with these issues because he's got enough on his mind. So, can you send me something in writing telling me what he has shared with you about this issue? Because, and I understand there's something you got from the DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers. And I never got that from the town.
I did not. I know the former wetlands agent, Lusoya, who's a former town planner. He had some communication with DEEP and possibly Army Corps. I believe one or both actually visited the site with Lusoya. They found no disturbance, no activity. I don't know, Randy, do you recall this? It's going back to 2014.
I'm so happy to hear this, because that's what I want in writing. So that
aerial views, if I recall.
Probably.
the aerial view is not the correct map. I don't know how it works, but Brian was there.
I thought we saw an old aerial view and a current aerial view.
But I
I'm
got
thinking
the,
the right one, Randy.
Was that under Lusoya?
It was a while ago. I have no idea.
well, it was before that, but he's been here a long time. Right, he's been here a long time.
I was involved with it, just to assist. Baloo was the wetlands agent back then. I've been out there, I don't know how many times, in the area of the brook. I don't know what to say. But
Can I have that in writing, please? Because again, I'm going to pursue this.
it's on public record.
I
It's
need
being
to have
recorded.
something in writing. I never saw anything from the town in writing.
And
In
you're
fact, my
not
daughter
going to.
asked for something. She was in New York, and she sent a
It'll be in
picture.
the minutes.
It'll be in the minutes for this meeting.
So Lusoya, former wetlands agent, never observed anything. Army Corps or DEEP or both went out to the site, did not observe anything.
That's not what I
And
was told.
And of all the times I've been
I
out there, which
told
is probably
the
once a
Army
year,
Corps.
I have seen no changes in conditions to the property.
This is what I want then, because I'm going to pursue it again. And when they ask me who's done what, because they always say, that's up to the town, they're supposed to take care of that. And nothing's been done. 10 years. 10 years, guys.
Is this a property line dispute?
The brook is listed as the center line of the brook is listed as a property. The claim is that the Haber Inn has moved the brook approximately 100 feet, which we see no evidence of that. Aerial photos still match up to where the brook currently is. It matches up to the original subdivision.
No, it doesn't.
I don't know what to say.
The aerial map is not the same as my property map, which also deed has a description, and I've gone on that.
Ma'am, do you have that?
I have those maps. I'll be happy to give them to you. I've got the what do you call that? Oh, the deed gives a complete description of so many feet this way and this way. I've been on that with 2 people. And the map is the same as my deed. It's a deed with the map. So, they're using the aerial map, which in fact, last time he was at my house, I said, what are you measuring over there? He would tell me, but I know. I'd say, what do you mean? And then I said, Ryan, can you please hold this tape measure? Because the last time the town, your panel, not all of you, I know you're a lot different. Well, hi. So the map is not the same, the aerial map, as again, I've been out there with 2 different people. We measured it twice, and I've got 2 of the same directions, and the deed and the map, and it all matched up. It was supposed to be 65 feet from my driveway down to a certain area. They said it's 65 feet, so if it gets any different, let us know. I let Ryan know that there was an issue. Can you please hold this tape measure? I'd like to measure that. I can't do it alone. He was there. He told me to get a surveyor to measure that that specific area, because I can't be on the driveway and at the brook at the same time. I'm sorry, Ryan, but I have to tell it like it is.
It's
And I'm
not-
going to pursue it because everyone, including the DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers, said that's up to the town to survey it because you're complaining. If there's a problem, they're supposed to take care of it. Okay?
Man,
So it's 10 years, guys, 10 years. I'm not getting any younger,
It
and I
sounds
want
like,
this taken care of.
it sounds like that there's a property line dispute. I think the only.
No, there's not a property line dispute. The problem is that they're moving, digging out 6 feet in one area, and it's not just in one spot. Ryan saw that he was pushing some down the hill, pushing the dirt, and I said, look what he's doing. He said, that's his property. And I said, oh, the 100 foot, doesn't matter anymore. I mean, he actually covered the brook. I saw him with 2 guys with the backhoes. The brook was at least 100 feet, went into the brook, and they smoothed it out like it was another road. And it's my property. The brook is almost gone there. That's how bad it is. I mean, look, I'm not lying about this. I'm an honest person.
So if they're moving the river or the brook, that would be a property line dispute. The best,
Exactly.
the best.
But if they're doing it,
The best
they
bet
know
would
it's
probably
not.
get a surveyor to give you a survey.
I did. It's funny because, what's his name? Police was here tonight. I had him do a survey. He charged me $3,000 up front. Did the survey. He brings the survey to my house, and I said, you didn't finish my survey. What do you mean? You only did half of it. Our agreement was that you were going to survey my property so I would know that it's right or wrong. He said, you want me to do more, I'll have to charge you. For what? The deal was survey my property. It wasn't survey half of my property.
I think they were probably misunderstanding between you and the surveyor.
No, I'm not stupid, I pay attention. I got the map, he gave me the back map, and he said, if you want me to do that part too, I'll have to charge you. Well, the directions on our agreement didn't say survey half of my property. It was survey my property.
Any information that you have, maybe we have another meeting scheduled for next month. And if you want to bring that in during the citizen participation and show.
I will be thrilled to. 10 years, guys. I'm 80 now. And I don't want to leave
Well, we
this
don't want to
issue to my
make you
children.
wait another 10 years.
I plan on living to under
Bring in
10.
whatever you have, and we will take a closer look at it.
I appreciate that very much. What's your name? What's your name?
Randy,
Randy? Okay. Thank you, Randy.
thank you.
Thank you for listening to me. I thank you too for listening to me.
Work for you, ma'am.
Ryan.
Okay, any other citizen participation? Correspondence,
No correspondence,
complaints,
no complaints.
other?
I have something I'd like to add on the other. This is not an actionable item, and I'm aware this is not something jurisdictional, but as many of us know, there's a controversial project going on right now for a proposal for a trash incinerator plant here in our town. It was discussed at the selectmen's meeting the other night. I just wanted to put it out there to the members that with the informational meeting that's coming up on that on Wednesday, May 7th, at 7 p.m. here at the town hall. I think it would be a good idea for some of the members to possibly attend that if they weren't already planning so already, because this is a pretty serious project which can have a negative effect on that part of our town, which does include wetlands in that area. And a number of other things too. I'm not going to go into all the details because again, that was already reviewed at the selectmen's meeting, but I just wanted to put it out there that being the commission that we are and what we focus on, I think this is a project that would be of interest, for at least the members to get more information on and take a stance on.
Okay. Any other?
I have nothing.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Seconded.
Motion made, seconded, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, motion carries.